Star Trek is not just for kids. While it may appear kiddie on the surface, while the age rating may not be high, while the costumes, the colorful designs, and the bad CGI sometimes may not indicate a serious TV show, I think Star Trek is not only a serious one, but also a very deep and meaningful one. I think in an age where media is simply so vast and there's so much of it, art pieces like Star Trek are really rare because whenever you see movies and shows in today's age, they are more about simply telling a story. They are more about simply making money than actually having a quality TV show. And I'm not saying that every TV show needs to tackle moral questions, but I think that, for example, TV shows like Breaking Bad, I love Breaking Bad, right? It's a good TV show. It doesn't really tackle human like morality in the way Star Trek does, right? It does have those scenes where you really question the emotions, not emotions but motives, morality, decisions of the people involved. But I think Star Trek just does it much better. And when I say Star Trek, I do not intend to refer to modern Star Trek, which is basically Star Trek past Star Trek Enterprise. So Star Trek, like the Abrams movies, Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek like I think it was like Strange New Worlds or something, right? Upper Decks, or no, not upper, lower decks, and obviously Star Trek Picard. The reason I am saying that I am not including modern Star Trek is because of that exact reason. It lost that original Star Trek originality, basically. It lost that questioning the deeper things. It became shallow. The best example is simply Star Trek Discovery. If you want to see like exactly like the type of stuff I'm talking about, is look up like Star Trek Discovery, like I think like DEI clips or something, or like bad clips. But basically in Star Trek Discovery, you have a lot of like very shallow and bad clips, right? And the whole show just feels much more shallow. But this video is not about that. Obviously, I don't want to start any controversies here. If you like it, that's fine. That's just I'm just sharing my personal opinion here. But Star Trek, for example, the best Star Trek in my opinion is Star Trek: The Next Generation. I think it tackles themes that are just very deep, and for a show that is meant more or less for kids, it is quite fascinating how well they do it, because they also manage to do this while keeping everything PG, right? It's hard to tackle themes of war and stuff like that without showing any kind of like really, nasty like scenes and stuff like that, and having like swear words and stuff. But Star Trek really shows that not only a better humanity, which is always good for any person, like even if you're 50 years old, watching Star Trek is still like a valuable experience, in my opinion. But Star Trek simply just tackles these moral dilemmas like nothing else. The best example I can say is, for example, the Measure of Man episode, right? The episode where uh, basically Data, who is an android on the Starship Enterprise, and he is the only one of his kind, is basically, there's a guy who basically just wants to disassemble him and, examine him and then make more of him for, monetary gain. Not monetary because there's no money in Star Trek, but external gain. Like, not really, he doesn't want to learn about androids. No, he just wants to make as many of them as possible. And, he's backed by Starfleet. But, Jean-Luc Picard, who's the captain of the Enterprise, is just not having that because he thinks that Data is and just as human as any other human. He should have the rights any other human has. And I'm not going to go into the depths of the episode because if you really want to experience it, just watch it yourself. If you have watched it, then you know what I'm talking about, right? You know the beautiful speech Picard gave. And I think that these kinds of episodes and this kind of media will help humanity really think about, things like AI advancing, things like AI art and stuff like that, and really, maybe be more accepting of other people, because there's a lot of, like, in the world, like, I'm not going to go too deep into stuff like that, but there's still a lot of discrimination against many people, and I think that episodes like that just make people a little bit more accepting, right? Even if it doesn't change their worldview like fully, it still kind of gives that good morality, right? Star Trek in its essence is a show with perfect morals, in my opinion. Even when the characters do something that is immoral, the show always kind of like says, like, it shows that that was immoral, right? One of my favorite episodes is the episode where Wesley Crusher is basically in, Starfleet Academy, and he and his, friends are doing like this cool trick. And while they're doing this loop, basically one of their friends gets in a crash and dies. And they obviously lie about it. They cover it up and they say, Wesley including, they basically say, yeah, we're just, we're not responsible. This was just an accident. We were doing a regular maneuver and he, like, probably, like, got unconscious or something. And, at the start of the episode, everybody believes him. But as the episode goes on, as more evidence is uncovered, Jean-Luc Picard basically realizes what has happened. He's a smart guy. So he understands what happened and he confronts Wesley. And that is, I think, one of the most powerful. This is where one of the most powerful speeches of his also happens, is where he basically goes on about how important the truth is. Because I think in the real world, I think truth and, truth telling is a very rare thing, especially among people. So this kind of, like, message that, actually, like, trust your gut and actually tell the truth, it's pretty good. And, during the episode, I'm not gonna explain everything, but basically they couldn't, like, the court couldn't prove, like, that Wesley actually, like, committed this crime, rather. But at the end he ended up confessing out of pure guilt, because he knew that Jean-Luc knew. And if he hadn't confessed, he would just ruin his friendship forever. But I think at that point it was pretty much already quite ruined. Another episode that I think is one of the most powerful of Star Trek is The Inner Light, which basically in one 40-minute episode tells a whole story of life, basically. So Jean-Luc gets basically put into this type of dream, very deep dream, because of there was like a space probe, and the probe, like, probed him and put him into this dream, and he experienced a whole lifetime in this, like, short dream that in the real world was like 20 minutes, but he experienced a whole lifetime, and we get to see this. And in this lifetime was just not any regular lifetime, but the last lifetime of a man of a dying species, on a dying planet, basically. And he experienced this in such a short time, and we get to see this, like, whole life go through. And, like, there are movies where you get to see, like, a person's whole life, but usually those movies are things like The Shawshank Redemption, where it all is just happening in a prison. But I think what this one episode has the power to do is give people the power to take action. And in this episode, it was not only about how important it is to do something in your life and how important relationships are and stuff like that, but also how important the planet is, right? How important it is to motion for saving the planet, basically, and stuff like that. So I think Star Trek is not only a positive influence for children, it is also a positive influence for older people. I think even if you're 80, you would have a lot of fun watching the show. I think you would even perhaps gain something, because this show is based, not only, what I noticed when watching the show is that it explores themes and it takes inspiration from very old stories, very old, like, actual myths and legends that are, not very kiddie, right? That are not necessarily, colorful space guys in space flying on a big spaceship and firing lasers. So I think Star Trek is just one of those shows that really manages to tackle such interesting topics in such a young format, how I would say. And Star Trek, like the Star Trek I'm talking about, is already quite old. So the people who watched it as kids are, whenever it first came out, are probably now adults. Not probably, but definitely adults. So that's interesting to think about how it has already affected a such a big portion of humanity, and I think that's for the greater good. All in all. Now, in today's episode, I didn't really talk too much about the original series and other shows. If you want me to take a deeper dive into shows like Star Trek Voyager or Star Trek the original series or Enterprise, just let me know. Like this is a channel about lore and media, so I am free to talk about anything related to that. So if you want to know more, or talk with me more about these subjects, hear my thoughts on it, then make sure to comment, leave a comment, and I will definitely make a video, because I have to make a video every day, so might as well make one video about something that I actually enjoy talking about, which is Star Trek. I think I could go deeper into specific episodes and stuff like that. So yeah, so that is the reason, essentially, if the point isn't clear, for why Star Trek is not just for kids, is that it looks kiddie, but it is not. The episodes it has tackle morality and tackle subjects that are very serious. Subjects like war, subjects like life or death, and language, and stuff like, and relationships. And it's not just for kids, because adults can learn a lot from this show. I see a lot of, you just open the news and you will see a lot of people committing, not committing, but making mistakes that are thoroughly explored in this show and talked about. And yeah, so that's basically my take on this subject, right? It's my opinion on this. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you liked it. Comment, your thoughts, and yeah, subscribe if you want to subscribe. If you want to see more, if you like my previous videos, or if you really, really enjoyed this one, then consider doing that. That's like the most important thing. So yeah, so live long and prosper.